In Yao, one of the hardest steps people struggle with is 3-2-3. In this video, I'll be showing tons of tips to make the step faster for you guys, ranging from beginner to past sub 30. If you are a more advanced solver, and you might already know some of these beginning tips, feel free to skip ahead or choose tips from the timestamps in the description below. The biggest reason why people are slow at 3-2-3 is because they're not looking ahead. Out of all the steps for Yao, I think this is the easiest step to look ahead on. And that's just because for every edge, you're looking only for one piece. And since you already solved so much of the cube, the edges are only in the top layer or the middle layer, which helps a lot. Lookahead starts with making the first edge, so before you even insert the last edge, make sure you know where to start. So I'll be looking at this piece right here. So for me, I slice with U prime, but you can adjust based on how you slice. So immediately I know that this piece is right here, so I get ready for this. When I'm inserting this piece, I do not look at this piece because this piece is worthless, it's not what I need. I should be looking for this next piece. So I know the wing I'm looking for is the red-green wing. So while I'm inserting this edge, I'm looking for this red-green wing, which is right here. Next we'll insert this. And again, we don't look at this when we insert it, we have to look at the next wing. So we're looking for the yellow-blue one. So don't look at this, look for the yellow-blue one, where is it? And it happens to be right here. And finally insert this red-blue. And even before I do the final slice, I know the next wing I should be looking for is the red-yellow wing. So I should be looking for that immediately. So for 3-2-3, it's very, very important that you're not looking at the edge that you're doing right now, but instead you're looking for the next edge that you're looking for. This way you're going to be pausing much less during your solves. The next tip is to not get distracted by solved edges. So let's say we get a cross here and we see a free edge here. I recommend for newer solvers to just ignore this edge completely. Because naturally when you do this step, you're not going to break up this edge ever. So this would always be preserved all the way to the end, so don't worry about it. So for here, just ignore it, slice over, and then start doing your edge pairing, ignoring this edge. If the edge is in the middle layer, I'll do the same exact thing. I'll just do everything as normal. But instead, obviously when I slice, I already have one free edge paired up. So from here, just solve two more edges. So here's the first one, here's the second one. And you don't have to do that third edge because the last edge is already solved from the beginning. The same rule applies when you slice over and you see a solved edge somehow. Again, what I recommend is just to ignore this edge completely. It doesn't matter when you start here or you start here. Either way, however you start the edge pairing, this edge will eventually be kicked out to the top layer and will be preserved for the rest of the solve. So don't worry about purposely preserving this edge because it will naturally be preserved. For example, let's insert this edge. First edge, second edge, and then the third edge right here. You see this naturally gets kicked out to the top. So don't ever worry about preserving these edges specifically because they'll always be naturally solved. So for 2-3s, there's a lot of bad cases for them, and there's a lot of cases where you can get pretty stuck. So here's how we solve all of them. So one bad case is here. When you slice over, try to find this edge. It's right here. Insert it. And then try to find this wing for this next edge, but it's all the way back here. Since you can't take out this edge and put it back here because that destroys this edge, it's going to be quite hard to figure out what to do from here. But one solution to this is just to slice over one more time, create this edge, kick it out, and then slice back. So you made one free edge here, but most importantly, you kicked out the bad piece right here. So you can keep going naturally with this piece. And now you're not stuck with these two pieces anymore. So here's another bad case. So in this case, we slice over, insert this edge here for these two. For this one, insert this edge right here. And for this last edge, it's not on the top layer because it's all the way back here stuck in the first edge. So we can't take out this edge and put it back here because it ruins the whole beginning. So what we can do instead is just slice over one time. And then you have two edges created for free. And from here, just solve the rest of the edges intuitively. Another way you can think about it is just to double slice back and solve this edge. And then from here, just continue on regularly, solving the first two slots. Since you already know that the back two edges are already solved. So maybe from here, slice over, insert this one. So pretty much just solve the rest of the edges like that. So here's another case, slice over, insert this edge here because of this orange, yellow. And then looking for blue, orange, it's actually all the way back here. So the previous trick solved the problem where the edges get stuck here. We've noticed here the edge is not here, but it's all the way back here. So the edge itself is not stuck because it's not in its first position. Since this edge is not stuck, it's better not to do the double and take it out. That's actually not that good. Instead, what you want to do is just take it out and then put it in its correct position like this. And from here, just keep going and then pair those three edges. Now let's say after solving a bunch of edges, you're left with four, which is just these four. It's very common that you get this case where you have these two being the same edge and then these two being the same edge. So it's very easy to think that you want to insert this, slice, flip, slice to solve these two edges, then insert these both, then slice, flip, slice to solve these two edges. However, that's way too long and you don't want to do that. Instead, insert one of the edges like this, upside down, then do a slice, insert one of these bad edges, So let's insert this one right here. Do a double slice back. Then insert the corresponding edge here. Then that solves all 4 edges immediately that quick. So just one more time, we have the same case here. Don't insert this edge into slice, flip, slice. Instead, insert it upside down. Slice, insert one of these broken edges. Double slice, and insert the last one correctly. That's how you solve all 4 at once. As mentioned previously, there's a lot of bad cases for 3 to 3. So one great tip is when you see a bad case, you can try to avoid it by choosing another edge to do. For example, if you slice over here, looking for this edge, it's all the way back here. So I have to take this out and put it back here, which is quite annoying. So instead what we can do, if we're looking ahead, is know that this is bad and just choose another edge to do. For example, we can start from this edge in the front. Even though we usually start off this edge, since this one is bad, we can switch to this one. So this one is yellow-green, which is much more accessible than bring this all the way over here. This is also a great trick to use when you're trying to look for this edge and you just can't find it. Maybe it's in a really hard place to find, so sometimes it's just worth it to just switch to another edge, which maybe has an easier edge or an easier edge to find. So 3 to 3 is pretty much comprised mostly of inserts. For example, here we'll slice over, find this edge, that one's here. So we insert an edge to kick it out, and we insert an edge to put it back in. Then it's this one, we insert an edge again, then it's this one, take out an edge, and put it back in. So there's so many inserts in 3 to 3. So the next few tips will show you a bunch of different ways to do inserts, and that way during your solves you have much more flexibility in choosing which inserts you want to do. So the ones you already know probably are the common insert like this, or maybe something like this, lefty. But there's actually a lot more you should know to help you in tougher situations. Let's say we want to insert this edge to this slot with red in front. A lot of people, even advanced solvers, try to insert it like this, bring it to the front, and doing this common insert. When it's so much better if it's in the back, just go ahead and insert it like this. Same thing here, if it's on the side, you could do this. This is actually not too bad to insert it here. But you can also insert this edge here with a double move like this, or U2 R prime. So let's say instead of inserting it with the red front, we want to insert it with the green front. Most people would rotate and maybe do something like this, a lefty insert, but there are a lot of better options. First off, you can do F inserts, so something like this. And this requires you to be pretty good at F moves. And then another common solution to get this here is with a Hedgeslammer that looks like this. The way I finger trick it is this. This also works. And some people do this, which also works, so you can choose which one fits you the best. With 3 to 3, a lot of people like to insert through the front and the right. However, with your solves, you want to be more comfortable doing back inserts like this, or this, and lefty inserts like this. And maybe even lefty hedges like this. So even though most people just spam R and U moves for the inserts, you want to be comfortable with left inserts, back inserts, and also stuff shown previously like Hedgeslammers and F moves. Finally, I'll show a few more inserts. These ones are a bit more risky and are probably based more for 3x3 and not for 4x4. However, I still think it's possible to do these inserts on 4x4. First, for the front slot, for getting this edge here, usually a Hedgeslammer would work. But another option to insert this edge here is with this insert, which has M moves. And that's pretty much just this insert on 3x3. And if you have this edge here that has to go to the back, you do the same insert from the back angle, like this, which solves that piece. Here's a few more inserts. These ones are actually pretty fun. They're harder with bigger 4x4s, so I think finger tricks like these work better on smaller 4x4s. To get this edge here, you can do something like this to insert that. So just using the wide F moves. If this has to go here, you can do this insert. This one's not as good, but if it's all the way back here, one alternative is just to do this to get that there. Just another option. After you finally solve the first 3 edges, and you have 5 edges left, I would highly recommend solving the rest of the 5 edges rotationless. So here's how I do it, and you can adjust based on how you want to do it. And when solving the rest of the edges, I like to mainly use one slot only, which is going to be the right slot, since it's so much easier to do right moves for most people. So first up, I put the unsolved edge on the left here. Find this piece, which is green, yellow, insert it. And I'm looking for this piece, which is blue, red, which is right here. Then I'm looking for this piece, which is just green, red. And I'm looking for the final piece, which is just yellow, orange, which is right here. And you see, because I did that regripless, it made everything so much more smooth. Here's a bit of a harder example, but it's still doable. Find this piece first, and then it's right here. Insert it. We're looking for the orange yellow to put on the bottom here, but this is a bit hard to insert. So here's when knowing other inserts is very helpful. Go ahead and do a hedge here to solve that piece. Other options, of course, can be something like this. F moves to solve it. And if it's your last edge, you can actually just rotate and solve it lefty. That also works. Sometimes during your last few edges, instead of doing an insert to solve them, you could just do setup moves to solve them. So for example, in this case, I have 2 edges that need to be solved. Commonly, people do this maybe. Slice, flip, slice. When I think it's better to do just this, R prime as a setup move to get it set up. The cross is not solved right now, but just don't worry about that. I'm here to slice, flip, slice. And then at the end, just resolve the edge. And it actually saves, I think, 2 moves, which is actually pretty nice. Here's another way you can apply that trick with the last 3 edges. Here, normally I would insert this edge to here, but instead you could do a setup move like this to bring it down. Just like that. Ignore this cross piece. Slice over. Put this edge here. Slice back, and then resolve this cross piece. So instead of doing an insert, you just do a setup move and undo it. That's simple. Next, I'll be going into some more advanced inserts. Here's the first one. You want this edge to go back here. If you just do a simple insert like this, it's flipped, which is not correct. So what we want to do here is just something like this. That solves the edge. So again, something like this. R prime, sledgehammer, R. That's how we get this edge from here. When we have an edge here that needs to go here, what you can do is something like this. So again, this one has to go here. Get this set up, insert the edge, and then move back the F move. And you can kind of trace how that edge moves from here to here. And that can also be done pretty quick. Now for the other side, if you want this right edge to move to the left here, you could do the lefty version, which is pretty bad. But something much better is something like this. So again, this, R prime F, with the edge over, F prime. And you can also kind of see how that traces from here to here. When you have an edge here that has to go here, honestly just doing this and then this is not too bad. But you can also do something like this, M, F2, M prime, to get that there. Or F2, R prime, F2, R, to get that to here. Also another way to get this here is just to rotate and just do this 2-gen like this, take it out, and put it in cancellation. And then for the mirror, the same thing. You do something like this. You do something like this, which is kind of risky. You could do F2, L, F2, L prime, or something like this. Or lefty, like that. If you have this back edge that needs to go here, you could do L, RE2, R prime, L prime, like that. It is a bit awkward because you have to do something like this. So the other solution is just to take it out normally and then just put it in like that. Same with mirrors. If this has to go here, just do R prime, L prime, E2, LR. Or just take it out and then put it in. If the edge back here has to go here, so compared to last time it's flipped, you do something like this. L, use F moves into the edge, and L prime. That solves it pretty quickly. If it's back here and it has to go over here, same idea. You do R prime, F, U, F prime, R to get that all the way here. If you have 2 edges that have to flip, like this situation, what you can do is hold it like this. Start a regular flip for this one. And then from here, just do R2, F prime, R, U prime, R prime to flip those 2. So again, start with regular flip. And then from here, R prime 2, F prime, R, U prime, R prime. In addition, with inserts, you always want to cancel as many moves as possible. And this works really well with inserting 2 edges at the same time. So here we have to insert this edge here and then get this edge all the way back here. So instead of just inserting this edge like this, we can cancel into this insertion as well and solve it like this to solve both. In our case, we have this one going here and then this one going here. Instead of just inserting this one normally and then inserting this one, insert this one first and then cancel into this insertion like that to solve both at the same time. Next, I'll do some last 2 edges and last 3 edges cases. When you get a case like this, it's quite annoying because you have to insert one edge, insert the other edge, and then slice, flip, slice. which is just way too many moves. So generally, I think there's 3 decent ways of solving this. The best way, I think, is just to do an alg to solve this case. But there's also 2 other ways, which is just to rotate or to use the middle slice like this. First off, the easiest way to solve this, I think, is just to go ahead and rotate from here and do slice here. Be aware of this last edge, realign it, and then that solves the case. You can also use the M slice for your slice-fip-slice. So slice like this, flip this edge like this, and then slice back. And that solves that same case using this middle slice. And also you have to realign this edge, of course. There can also be cases like this, maybe, or something like this. So I think the best solution for solving these cases is just to know the algs. Now if you know this OLO and 3x3, this one, or any of its mirrors or any similar algs, or even something like an A-perm, basically if you know the idea of corner commutators, it should be pretty easy to memorize these algorithms. So when the edges are aligned like this, it goes like this, rotate, if the edges are still opposite but they don't have the same edge on each side, do this alg, which is just the inverse to solve those. When you get this case with 2 adjacent edges, and you can see it's kind of symmetrical, these edges are the same and these edges are the same. With this one, I like to hold it from top right, do this algorithm, no rotation. Here's the same case, adjacent edges, but not with the same edges here, instead the same edges here and here. With this, hold it the same way, but do this algorithm. These 2 algorithms can be applied from a different angle as well. For example, this one, with the front and the right. You can solve this algorithm like this. So this is the same algorithm, but from a different angle. A nice application of this algorithm, with edges not on the top layer only, is when you have one on top and one on the side. As I mentioned before, one thing you can do is just do like a 1 move setup and then do slice. But if you have the edges from this angle, you can just go ahead and rotate like this and do this algorithm. And rotate back up, and that solves the case. So there's one more option to solve cases where you have one edge on top and one edge in the middle layer. Next, for the last 3 edges on top layer, it's pretty similar to the last 3 edges in that there's 3 ways of solving them. You can do an alg, you can pair up through this slice, or you can just rotate, which is going to be the easiest option. So when you have 3 edges on top, usually what you have to do is insert one edge, insert the other edge, and then slice, insert, slice, which takes a long time. The easiest way to avoid this is to rotate. So hold this like this, with the edge in the back, left and right. Rotate, and then just solve it like here. So this has to go here, slice, insert this edge, slice back, and then fix this cross edge. Then we can solve these 3 edges. If you have a bad case like this, where as you can see, you can't just slice because it's not aligned, all you have to do is do a simple trigger like this to change the alignment, and no matter what, you should be able to get something. So here, this actually gets paired up. So slice, insert this, slice back, and that solves those 3 edges. A more advanced way of solving the last 3 edges on the top layer is to pair up the M slice. Here's 2 easy cases when we have the edges paired like this. So for this one, after the slice, we have to replace the edge with this wing to match up with this one. So this how it goes like this. That's to pair up the edge. And then insert this. And that solves this case. So again, pair up the edge, insert the edge, slice back. This one, the right edge is oriented differently, so instead of doing big L prime, you would just do R prime, like this. This edge has to go here, so just insert it like this. And just slice back with a slice move, and that solves the case. Here's 2 more easy cases. Same idea with 3 edges on top and using the middle slice to pair. For this one, get this edge here, so slice, insert the edge, slice back, solve the 3 edges on top. And then for this one, this time use the R slice, slice, put the edge here to replace the solved edge, and slice back. Before I get to the better solutions for the bad last 3 edge cases, here's one more application of the M slice pairing idea. If you have 2 edges on the top and then 1 edge in the middle layer, what you can do is go ahead and slice to make the edge. insert the edge from the middle layer to there, and then slice back. And that's a simple way to solve 3 edges, 2 on the top layer and 1 in the middle layer. Here's the first set of the bad last 3 edge cases. So obviously hold the solved edge on left as usual. The way you can tell it's a bad case is that no end move actually solved any edges in the middle layer. And specifically, to know if it's the first set, just know that the solved edges are here, either on the left or the right. But more importantly, the other edges, they create kind of L's, kind of like this and this. And the edges are not really symmetrical from any angle, as you can see. When you get this case, I just do this, insert the edge, view, and then solve this case. And this is a simple case from before using M-slice pairing. So slice up to make this edge, use this middle layer slot to insert the edge on the top, and then move it back down to solve the last 3 edges. Same idea here with the solved edges here, but again the other corresponding edges form non-symmetrical L's. So if you have this case, just insert the edge here, do view, and then solve the rest. From here, slice up, insert this edge back here, and then slice back down to solve the 3 edges. Finally, here's the second set of the bad 3 edge cases. For these ones, of course, you see the solved edges on the side, so you can't make any edges by slicing. But if you make the L's from the rest of the corresponding edges, they make symmetric L's, if you know what I mean. Like this. And with this one, it's a bit deeper, but it is still a symmetric L. So before it would be something like this, but now instead it's something like this. First off with the ones with the solved edges on the left side. For this one, just do this A-perm from this angle using wide R moves. So something like this. That solves the case. When you solve the edge on the right, you want to do this A-perm with the opposite in front. And again using wide R moves to solve that case. If you have to solve that on the right side, there's also a few more options that you might like better. First off, you could do a T-perm with the wide arm moves, something like this. That solves that case. Or you can just do a J-perm with fat R's. So, this. Those are also pretty fast, and you can choose which one you want to do, the A-perm or this one. The next trick is to always avoid these 2 flips because they are quite long and annoying, and generally try to do cycles instead because they are usually better. So first off, it's quite important to know when you're going to get that 2 flip at the end. You would generally get this case at the end of 3 to 3 when you solved exactly 1 extra edge from 3 to 3 that you never intended to solve. And that's exactly why you have 2 edges left, not 3, because you solved 1 of them by accident. So here I did the first 3 edges of 3 to 3, and notice I had an extra solved edge here, which means that I will get a 2 flip if I don't avoid it. And just to show it, let's do the 3 to 3 here. Slice, insert this, slice back, and of course you can see we get a 2 flip, which is really bad. So whenever you know you're going to get a 2 flip at the end, to force a 3 cycle, instead what you want to do is do the first edge normally, but when slicing back, insert the same edge but upside down. So normally I would insert this here to solve this edge, but since we already had a free edge from before, I actually don't want to solve this edge to force a 3 cycle, so insert it the wrong way and then slice back. And now you notice that we finally end up with a 3 cycle. People might just flip this edge and then slice and then insert this, but you don't actually want to use the slot anymore because it's kind of stuck. You have the solved edges on top on both sides. So instead what you want to do is insert the edge on the left side. So here is the correct edge. Insert it here. Then you can slice over to solve this edge. And then solve the final edge like this. And that way you don't have to do a 2 flip and instead you do a 3 cycle. And I think that saves 3 moves, which is pretty good. This next trick is something I see even a lot of fast solvers miss. And that trick is to never take out or insert edges randomly, and always to choose the best edge to insert or take out. So it sounds kind of weird, so I will show some examples of this. First off, we'll slice over from here. We'll insert this edge here to pair these up, and then look for a green red here, but it's all the way back here. Now normally, you would slice over and then insert a random edge here, but if you do that, you insert a random edge, which is just pointless when you can rather insert a smart edge. So here, a smart edge to insert is this edge right here, which is going to be the blue-orange one. So since we have the stuck case, we can slice back, find a blue-orange edge, which is right here, insert it to the back, and then slice back. So we did a few things here. First off, we got the 1 edge out and we fixed the bad case. But second off, because we inserted a smart edge here, notice that we skipped the next edge right here. Usually we have to do 1 more insert to solve this edge, but since we inserted a smart edge in this place, now this is already set up and we just have 1 edge left to go, which is this one. and we're done that quickly. Here's another example. We'll slice over, look for this piece, which is right here, the red-green. Insert it here to pair up. Then we want to look for this piece, which is all the way back here. Now there's a few ways to do this. You can of course do the algorithm that gets this here that I've showed before, which is not a bad solution. But one thing you can do is just take this out and then put it back in here. But again, if you take this out and put it back in here, you're inserting a random edge into this slot, which is not what you want. You want to insert a smart edge here. So we're trying to get this blue and red piece over here, which means that yellow and red will be here. That means ideally we want to put in the yellow-red piece here to kick out this edge. So instead of inserting a random edge here to kick it out, insert this purposely to get the red-yellow here. Then insert this edge into here as planned. And now we're actually done with the first step, and we actually solved 3 edges right there. So again, the idea of this tip is pretty simple. Whenever you're placing an edge or taking an edge out, try to insert a smart edge into there. That way you can skip the next insert. And you can do one less extra insert. You can also use this trick in combination of other tricks. For example, normally you know that to get this here, all you have to do is this algorithm to get this set up. But again, that algorithm gets a random piece into here, which is not good. So what we could do is set it up to a way that can get a good edge over here, which is actually this edge right here. So once we put this edge set up into this position, then do the algorithm, you'll notice that both these edges are set up right away. So we slice back and we're solved with the 3 edges. Now for the most part, of course you want to use this trick, but there are some cases where doing this trick is not the greatest. For example here, slice over, insert this edge here. Then we have this edge, which is actually back here. So to insert a smart edge in this edge's place, we need to look for this one, which is green and yellow. And the edge is all the way back here. Since you have to take this edge out and then put it back in to replace this edge, it's going to be quite a lot of moves, and maybe it's not really worth doing those extra moves to save a few moves later. Another alternative is to insert a smart edge here to kick this one out. But in order to do that, you have to find this piece, which is the yellow-blue one, and replace it with this one. And that's just way too much calculation for 2 to 3. And sometimes if you go too far to finding the smart edges, you're going to waste a lot of time looking for them. So for this smart edge trick, do them whenever you can. But if it looks like it's going to be too complex, inserting random edges does work fine. Even though sometimes it is less efficient to just insert a random edge. Sometimes when it's too difficult to insert a smart edge, it might just be better to save the time that you would be pausing. Now, under some lucky cases, when you start 2 to 3 and you see some lucky case like this, when you have a free F12 pair, I think it is worth it to just do the F12 pair like this and make an X cross kind of. And just slice over and just continue 2 to 3, pretending that the first edge is solved. Because you inserted the pair with this edge, you never have to worry about this pair. And going past 2 to 3, this whole pair will be solved, including this corner, which is really good. Of course, don't go out of your way to make a pair in 2 to 3. However, if you see a very easy one or one that's already made, you can just go ahead and slice over from that pair and just keep going. And it will still be preserved the whole time. Next, here's what I do when I get free edges. So whenever I get one free edge that's in the E layer, what I like to do is take it out to the top layer, but replace it with a smart edge. So over here, I'm looking for this edge, so it's right here. So kick this edge out by inserting this edge, and then slice over. Then just finish the rest of the solve here, and as you notice, we get 2 free edges. That pretty much means that if we do the rest of the solve smart, we should skip the last step. Now, if we have one solved edge on the top layer, I still like to look for this corresponding edge right here, which is the blue-red, and insert it here. And then do the slice. That way we start with 2 free edges right here. And if everything goes smoothly, you should be able to skip the last step. Again, for this trick, don't do it when it's inconvenient. For example, if the edge is all the way back here, maybe it's not worth doing this trick. But whenever it is convenient, you do want to do this trick and you can skip the last step of 2 to 3. Now what if we somehow get 2 free edges? If they're both on the top layer, I do like to just slice over and just continue from there. And if everything goes well, you should be able to skip the last step. If both edges are in the E layer, however, I like to just slice over and then just insert this last edge and finish 2 to 3 like that. If one edge is in E layer and one edge is on top layer, I still like to insert this edge to make them adjacent edges right here. And just continue as usual, slice, insert the final edge to make the 3, and then just finish the solve from there. If you have 2 edges on top, another option is just to insert both edges together with a cancellation, like that, to get it into the E layer, and then just solve from there. However, personally, I think it might be better to just ignore them, leave them on top, and I think most of the time you should be able to skip the last step without doing anything with these edges. If somehow after you solve the cross, you have 3 solved edges on top, I think there's 2 ways of solving it. Best case scenario, what we could do is insert one smart edge, so this one, to make one more edge, and then just solve the rest from here. So this piece is right here, this piece is right here, and then this piece is right here. Slice back, and that should solve all your edges. That's the luckier case. Another option from this case, if you have 3 on top solved, is to just insert 1 edge into the front and just solve it like 2 edges on top and 1 in the middle layer. When you do have 2 solved edges on top and 1 in the middle layer, what you can just do is just slice over from here, pretend this is just solved, insert 2 more edges and slice back, and then you should skip the last step. And of course, if you have 3 edges solved in the middle layer, just pretend the first step of 3 is already done and just do 2, 3 with the rest of the 5 edges. This trick is kind of difficult to use, but usually for the last 5 edges, you have to mainly use 1 slot, which is for me the right slot, and you want to not rotate at all. But in some cases, when the edge orientation on the top layer is quite bad, what you could do is just rotate and it can make things a lot better. For example here, I have to do a hedge to insert this, and I have to do another F move to insert this other edge. So instead, in a case like this, maybe it's better to just rotate. This changes the edge orientation of these pieces to this slot and can make this a lot easier. So here, insert this, and then insert this other one. And as you notice, no F moves at all. Insert this, and insert this. So as you can see there, no F moves at all. If we didn't rotate, we would have to do F moves for pretty much every single edge, which is quite annoying. So if you're able to detect early that you're going to do a lot of F moves, sometimes it might be worth it to just rotate and get a solution with less F moves and more 2-gen solutions. To take advantage of lucky cases for 2-2-3, I think it's quite important to be slice neutral, meaning you can start with a U or a U prime as your first slice. For example here, I will do a U prime, look for this piece, but it's all the way over here, which means I have to take this out and put it back in here, which is not the best case. If I see this ahead of time, I could actually, instead of doing a U prime, which is my natural slice, do the other slice, which is a U, and actually you will notice that you get 2 free edges here, which is pretty nice. And then solve it with a U prime slice. So insert this piece, and so on. So being able to slice from both directions gives you double the options, helping you avoid bad cases and take advantage of more luckier cases. I think it's pretty cool to be able to slice from both directions, but another way to give you more options is to be able to insert from both directions. So usually you slice this way and insert pieces from this space. But another option is you can always insert pieces from this space as well. For example, if I slice over here, look for this piece, but it's all the way over here, which is not the greatest. So what I can do is just completely ignore this cycle and just go into this back cycle. So this piece is right here, solve this piece. This piece is right here, solve this. And then finally this piece is here, insert it, slice back, and you can solve 3 edges from the back. So again, when you're slicing this way, you don't have to always solve these edges like this and go this way. You can solve this edge and go the other way, which is another great option to have when you run into a bad case. So as shown from the previous tips, if you have some free edges solved after you solve the cross, it makes your 2-2-3 sometimes a lot easier. So sometimes when you're making this final cross, maybe the last edge piece, try to influence it in a way to make an extra edge. For example, for here I can slice to make this edge. Instead of replacing this with a random edge, you can maybe replace it with a smart edge like this. That way it aligns with these two, and then slice back. That way you make 2 edges. So once you make the cross, you have a free edge, and this free cross edge makes your 2-2-3 have a higher chance of being better. This also works with Hoya, I think, and other methods. All you have to do is, when making this final cross edge, just try to influence it in a way to solve an extra other edge. This is a Yao specific trick. I'm not sure if it works too well because I don't use Yao, but I think it should work pretty well. Whenever you solve the 3 edges here, and then you see a free edge here, instead of making the white cross edge into a 2-2-3, you can just insert this solved edge into the cross. It's not correct obviously, but just insert it for now. And then solve the rest of 2-2-3 by itself. And at the end, you can finally insert back the white edge to make the cross. I think if you're able to look ahead this free edge, this is actually pretty much better. Because normally you're doing quite a bit of moves just to solve one edge. But if you already have a free edge, you can just ignore that and save all those moves and save it for the end where you can insert the edge back. So that's pretty much it for this video on my 2-2-3 tricks for 4-4. As you can see, there were a ton of tricks, so hopefully you found some of these helpful. Out of all of these tricks, I think the first one has to be the most helpful, which is just to look ahead. A lot of the advanced tips also takes a lot of look ahead, trying to know which edge goes where and what to replace the edge with. So you really need good look ahead for this step and also for the advanced tips. So I would highly recommend practicing look ahead a lot for this step. So that's it for this video. Hopefully these tips made this step faster for you guys, and thank you for watching.